Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Off and running hour number 2 here after further review on a Monday presented by Relief Windows. Musso in for Moscona. Scone is out for the rest of the year, so I will take you up until 2026. Taylor Sharp, Cassie Spazzali, they're along for the ride, and we're glad to have you along for the ride as well. 1 hour down. It's some LSU Texas Bowl here. Not necessarily breaking down the game because, well, it's the Texas Bowl against Houston. More so who you will and will not see in that game and what replacements will fill in for the opt-outs and what that could mean for LSU going forward here as a program. As plenty of these guys who are going to fill in are young and or have eligibility left and could factor in big for LSU in 2026 and beyond. Peter Burns will be here with us in the next segment as well. Get PB's reaction to the SEC and the college football playoff opening round and a thought on a couple on 3 more SEC teams doing battle in the quarterfinals here come New Year's Day. Okay, let's start though with LSU and the Texas Bowl. Tigers and the Cougars Saturday night. Here it is game week. 8:15 is the kickoff there in NRG, and now we have a little bit more of a feeling of expanded opt-outs here for LSU. We have the write-up up at louisianasports.net if you want to check it out. Published yesterday morning. And there are a few that we knew, right? We knew Mansour Delane. He's a projected top 10 pick in the draft by some mocks right now. First cornerback off the board, and he's been dealing with an injury all season that he's been playing through. He's not going to play in this bowl game. We knew that. Defensive end Jack Pyburn, he's accepted the invite to the Panini Senior Bowl, so he will not play. Whit Weeks is not going to play again. He's been dealing with the injury really for the back half of the season, came back for Western Kentucky and Oklahoma, but he's got a really important decision to make about his future, whether it is another year at LSU, which we've talked a little bit about, and I think everybody would be ecstatic if Whit Weeks returned for another season, or does he go ahead and start his NFL career as well? And look, we played a piece of audio on this show last week. Whit Weeks was on the Get Gordon podcast with Gordon McKernan and was asked about his future and said, he's looking to make the best decision for Whit Weeks. Some people are telling him to stay, others are telling him to go, but it's his decision. And then, in the end, it has to be what's best for Whit Weeks. So we'll see. But in the meantime, while he weighs that decision and heals up, Whit Weeks won't play in the bowl game. Then you get to kind of the newer guys. One of them, Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins he's likely just played his last game as a Tiger. I want to give some thoughts on Perkins' time at LSU. But first, Jordan Gilbert is expected to replace Perkins at the star position for the Texas Bowl. I like that move an awful lot. Look, Jordan Gilbert only played in 4 games to preserve the red shirt. You'll remember the new rule. Bowl games, postseason games do not count in terms of that. So his red shirt is preserved. He can go in there and play. And Jordan Gilbert, early in the season, he was pretty good. He played LSU's first 3 games of the year at Clemson, La Tech, and home against La Tech in Florida, and then at Oklahoma at the end of the season. His best game of the year was Clemson. That was also the game he played the most snaps in. He only played 53 snaps the entire season. 26 of them came against Clemson, and he was really much improved from what you saw a year ago when he was struggling due to that shoulder injury. He graded out a 65 total in that game, did Jordan Gilbert. And then they really, after the Louisiana Tech game, said, okay, hold tight. We're going to preserve the red shirt and go. So I'm excited to see what he can do because that's a guy who, look, man, had a really nice few years at Texas A&M, came to LSU, had the injury, struggled through it, and then you didn't really get to see a lot of him healthy this year because of the red shirt. So seeing Jordan Gilbert, that's going to be extremely intriguing for this game, and that's ultimately what we all want to see in the bowl games, right? That's why when we do this type of segment, we're not breaking down the game necessarily. We'll give you a thought on the game probably on tomorrow's show. But the intrigue in bowl games now lies in what's the future of the program, right? Remember that on the offensive line a year ago when you didn't have Will Campbell, you didn't have Emory Jones. I mean, really, your whole offensive line opted out except for DJ Chester just about. So you got to see Cohen Eccles and Weston Davis, and Tyree Adams and all of those guys play, Paul Mubanga a little bit more, all of them play as together as a unit to see what you would have going forward. That's what I'm really excited about with Jordan Gilbert because, man, if this goes well, he's a great depth piece for you, especially if Tamarcus Cooley returns. And if Tamarcus Cooley decides to move on, Jordan Gilbert could be in line to start as safety, obviously, for LSU. Now, for Harold Perkins and just his time at LSU, it never amounted back up to what it was in his freshman season because he was just never used as a pass rusher extraordinaire again. And there were all the talk about, he's not productive. And it's just not necessarily true. Were Perkins' numbers down a little bit this year in terms of tackles? Yes. But this is a guy who still ended up with 217 tackles in 3 full seasons playing at LSU. You saw him obviously in coverage a lot more this year, and his interception numbers went up. He still had a forced fumble. He still managed 4 sacks on the year. There was production. But ultimately, Harold Perkins' career at LSU will be remembered for them trying to find him the spot where the production could be maximized. That's the thing with Perkins. The production was never really maximized for his athletic ability. And I think part of that is he can just do so many things that it's hard to maximize one of them. And ultimately, I think that's why star position is where he landed and why that kind of worked out for him. It'll be very interesting to see what happens at the next level for him. Because that's where he's off to, and he won't participate in the bowl game. But, man, I'll tell you this. I would argue the month of November was the best football that Harold Perkins played in an LSU uniform. The month of November here in 2025. Because he had an inconsistent season. He was not good against Vanderbilt. He was not great against Texas A&M. But, man, you look down the stretch of the season. In 4 games, you saw 2 sacks. You saw 2 interceptions. You saw 10 tackles across those 4 games. He was everywhere. And he impacted those games massively, especially Oklahoma, especially Alabama, and especially Arkansas. Excuse me, I miscounted his tackles. 10 tackles was his solo tackles. I take that back. In the 4 games, he totaled 22 tackles. 22 total tackles in 4 games, 2 interceptions, a couple sacks as well. He was great and impacted winning for LSU down the stretch. And I would tell you, especially because, look, it's a lost season at that point, and he was coming off his 2 worst games of the year. I thought he was awesome down the final stretch of the season. So he'll move on, and we're excited to see Jordan Gilbert in that role going forward. You also get to see Deshaun Spears because he will be replacing A.J. Halsey, who will not play in the bowl game and also just accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl, I believe, on Sunday. So he will be off there. Deshaun Spears will replace him, and I'm really excited to see this. Y'all, do you realize Deshaun Spears, if you ignore snap counts, Deshaun Spears played 168 snaps this season over 12 games. He graded out as LSU's 2nd highest defender, behind only Mansour Delane, ignoring snap counts, 90.8. He was obviously awesome against Florida with the 2 interceptions, including the pick 6. He was very, very good as well against Alabama, graded out a 90.6. And he was really good a year ago. This is a great audition for Deshaun Spears going forward. Him being able to play in place of A.J. Halsey. You talk about a guy for the future. The top 5 safety in the country coming out of high school, coming out of Denham, and has done nothing but honestly produce in the limited time that he's been allowed on the field at LSU. And now he gets this full game sample in a bowl to audition for Lane Kiffin, for this staff. Obviously, look, Jake Olson will be back on Blake Baker's staff, so his coach is staying. And there's obviously somebody that they're high on. I would tell you, Jordan Gilbert, Deshaun Spears, the guys I'm most intrigued to see on the defensive side of the ball, obviously. And then Josh Thompson also will not play in the ball game for LSU at guard. But the rest of your offensive line is. And you talk about a unit that needs an audition for Lane Kiffin and this staff. It's the offensive line, because they were without question the worst group on the team. That was LSU's weakest position group. You'll see Tyree Adams. You'll see Cohen Eccles. You'll see Braylon Moore, most likely. You'll see Paul Mubenga. You'll see Weston Davis. And anybody else they want to rotate in there. Karius Kern is going to play in this game as well. He's entered the transfer portal, but has not ruled out a possibility of a return to LSU. What if he goes out there, has a great opportunity? That's what you're looking at. But just a quick update. So Delane, Pyburn, Whit Weeks, West Weeks. By the way, Devon Keys and Tylen Singleton, I failed to mention those two. Blake Baker has been extremely high on those guys, and getting to see them play a full game next to each other is something else to keep an eye on here. So Delane, Pyburn, Weeks, Thompson, Halsey, Perkins. What we know of here on game week, not playing in the Texas Bowl. Just some food for thought, things to keep an eye on as well when LSU plays Houston on Saturday night. Okay, let's grab a break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll talk college football playoff with Peter Burns. That's next here on AFR.
This week in the SEC with Peter Burns.
Unsportsmanlike conduct.
Let's separate the contenders from the pretenders.
Number 11 of the defense. Throwing the LSU player's shoe 20 yards down the field.
With Peter Burns of the SEC Network. Presented by Blue Delta Jeans.
Back here on AFR. Monday show presented by Relief Windows. Musso in for Moscona. Peter Burns of the SEC Network's been good enough to give us his time on Mondays all throughout football season, and he's back for the college football playoffs since 5 SEC teams made it. Peter, we appreciate it as always. How are you?
I'm actually horrible. I just had to go finish up Christmas shopping, and I'm like, I do not have Jimmy Sexton negotiating my deals, so it was a painful experience.
Oh, God. Well, look, at least you're not Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve, like plenty of people. I'll tell you, Peter, I finished earlier than I ever had this year Christmas shopping.
Mm-hmm.
It felt really weird to be sitting here like last week, at the end of last week, not needing Christmas presents.
I'm disappointed in you. Like that doesn't feel like that's part of the challenge. Like I want to be under the gun. Like nobody ever wants to be out there and like have actually studied for the exam. Like it's better to cram and have the excitement, right?
Well, I guess, but if it makes you feel any better, I still haven't wrapped any of the Christmas presents. I'm also horrible at wrapping presents. I think my girlfriend's gonna actually try to like teach me this year how to do it, because it's atrocious. Like I'm the world's worst Christmas present wrapper probably ever. So I guess I have that stress still laying ahead. But yeah, I did.
Okay.
I finished the Christmas shop.
Life's all about challenges.
Exactly. All right, Peter, let's talk some college football playoff. I look back at this and I thought, man, it was a really good opening round for the SEC, because you were guaranteed one loss anyway with Alabama and Oklahoma playing. But I mean, Ole Miss took care of business. At Texas A&M, they fell a little bit short, but I mean, I kind of looked at it. I'm like, then you kind of technically go 2-1 since you were guaranteed a loss already. Let's start with the game in Norman on Friday night. Man, for my money, PB game of the weekend in the playoff. When you look at it, did Bama win it or did Oklahoma lose it?
I mean, I think Bama won it. And I mean, you think about it's not just the Mateer play with about 3 minutes to go right in the second quarter, where he's got wide open space, right? All he's got to do is run. He's got the first down. Bama's probably not going to get the ball back if that happens. He decides to throw it, and the running back ends up just whiffing on it, and then that leads to all SEC punter just completely whiffing it, like the PlayStation controller, like batteries died. Like that was the weirdest punt block situation I had seen, and but it goes before that, right? I mean, like think about that 4th and 2 on that first drive that Alabama has when they're down 17-0. Kalen DeBoer decides, screw it, we're not kicking a field goal, we're going to go for it. And if they kicked the field goal, I think that gave Oklahoma all the momentum that they needed. Instead, they go for it, they get the touchdown, and they kind of just kept alive. And I mean, listen, there were people that were ready to go pack up his damn office in Tuscaloosa and send him on a jet over to Michigan. And I think Michigan was waiting for that as well, too. And then, sure enough, man, they find a way to freaking get it done.
It's a great point with the fourth down call by DeBoer, too. I mean, you go back even to the Iron Bowl and the one he pulled there, and then again here in the game, just kind of laying it all out on the line. You brought up Mateer and the struggles. Peter, I'll ask you just your opinion on this. And I know, obviously, you're not a doctor, but how much of the struggles for Mateer do you think really was the finger injury, the thumb injury, and how much of it was, man, him just adjusting going from Washington State to the SEC?
No, yeah, I mean, I see early in the season, though, he looked good. I think mentally he just never got to that point, right? Like, I think after the first couple of games he felt good, but when they rushed him back, and I talked to people in Norman, they said, hey, listen, this, he didn't have the same zip on the ball that he had back like in the Michigan game. And I go back to like Nussmeier, right? I mean, like with Garrett, when he didn't have the same zip on the ball because of the injury, he just didn't look as confident in it. And I think that was the deal with Mateer. And then sure enough, man, I mean, it was brilliant when Kane Womack showed like that cover 0 blitz, and then they dropped back 8 or in that cover 2 situation. And then Xavier Brown takes it to the house. Like it was just, I've never seen like 60,000 surrender cobras go up at the same time. So it's going to be fascinating. I still think Indiana has its way with Alabama. I mean, I think Indiana is actually for real because nobody can run the ball in Indiana, and hell, Alabama can't hardly run the ball in anybody to begin with. So sadly enough, I think actually Oklahoma would have been a better fit to take down Indiana than maybe Alabama.
That's going to be an interesting one in the Rose Bowl come January 1st. We can circle back to that if we have some time. Miami and Texas A&M, boy, PB, this was just a beautiful disaster of a football game. I mean, gusty winds, blocked kicks, fake punts, you name it, fumbles, interceptions. In the end, Miami, hey, it did come down to the last play, and the Canes got it done, eliminating Mike Elko and Texas A&M.
I cannot confirm. I was at College Station. I was not with Johnny Manziel, so I was not the excuse, the reason why he was not there at College game day. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the wind was whipping 25 miles an hour. It was wild. It was crazy, and I think it's one of those games too in which if you watch on television, it sucked. You're like, this is just horrible. But in the building, it reminded me like a diet version of 2011 9-6 Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was in Tuscaloosa for that game, and every single play felt like it was the game was going to be determined on it. And to a certain extent, again, not the same because of how good those teams were in 2011, but it felt like that way with Miami. And then they scored, and my gosh, I think Michael Irvin maybe had a Red Bull, maybe even a 5-hour energy. He looked to seem to be energized with some type of substance.
Ooh.
And they end up getting that victory. And just, again, I still can't believe it. I think we talked about it, with Moscona after they did it after the South Carolina game. Think about, they already gave Mike Elko a contract extension. It's like they almost didn't understand the lesson that they learned from the Jimbo Fisher stuff. And so since the contract extension, they blew out, Stanford, but then lost to Texas and then lost their home playoff game. So, I mean, You're 2 losses away from being on the hot seat after you just gave him a massive extension, which is wild.
That's what I was going to kind of ask you with the big picture for A&M. Obviously, they're not moving on, right? Like, what should we make of their offensive struggles, particularly in the last 2 games against Texas and against Miami? And now Colin Klein's off to be the head coach at Kansas State. So Elko's got to replace the offensive coordinator that has helped lead them to so much success. I mean, how much should we be made, or how much should A&M potentially be worried about the future on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Marcel Reed did not play good in that game whatsoever. But also, in part of the reason why they even got to that point was for what he did against LSU and other teams. So, I mean, he's good. They just got to find a way. I mean, he looked late, and that's partially his fault, but partially also because Miami's a hell of a team. I mean, I did not – how the hell they lost 2 games in the ACC is baffling to me with that many playmakers that they have. And honestly, I'll put it this way. I think the wind helped Miami because they basically effectively said, Carson Beck, we're not going to give you the opportunity to lose this game for us. We're just going to run the hell out of the ball. And ultimately, that ended up being the difference.
And look, Miami, and I should note, I mean, Texas, Miami, two very good defenses as well that A&M had to go up there. But
but how about Sark firing his guy,
I know.
Bukowski over there, and then bring it out in
Muschamp.
I'm like, what the hell was that?
I know. I'm like, the defense wasn't the problem all year in Austin, man. I mean, golly. Last game for him, he holds an A&M offense that had been as potent as could be to 17 points, and then he's shown the door. College football, PB, I don't know. If you start asking too many questions, you just get more confused. A thought on Ole Miss against Tulane? I mean, that was not competitive, but, I mean, it was a great showcase for them, winning without Lane Kiffin, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was circle the wagons. Everybody was going for Pete, and, I mean, it was a great way. Charlie and those guys, I mean, they showed what they can do right now, and I think if you're an LSU fan, you're looking like that. Hell yeah. I mean, that's exactly what we need down in Baton Rouge right now because, you know, as much as people could talk about the quarterback situation, I was talking to somebody about that earlier today. I go, just the fact that, you know, bringing now Kevin Smith and then bringing Lane and that offense and Charlie with, you know, now you can run the ball again. I mean, that's what excites me the most about LSU football coming up this year is I think a lot of people think Lane's offense is traditionally pass heavy, but if you look at the pass run split, I think it's probably closer to 65-35 run first. It just happens to open up the passing lanes because they run the ball so well and efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, that's you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. It's always been the run, kind of with Lane Kiffin, and now obviously, look, Kevin Smith's coming over to LSU as well. I'm more interested with Ole Miss in the rematch against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day. You got an early thought on that game for us, Peter? Because man, that was a fantastic game in the regular season, an absolute shootout where Georgia scored on the first 5 possessions of the game.
Yeah, and that was so un-Kirby-like. But then at the end of the day, Kirby's like, we're just going to out-physical you. And they did. And so they won that game then. And now go take a look at the situation in which you sit there and go, all right, wait a minute. Kirby's going to have 24 days to get ready for Ole Miss. And now what staffers are going to still be calling the game, you know, putting the game plan together? That's what I'm trying to figure out of, like, what LSU and Lane does with the coaching staff that's there and not there. Nobody's kind of spelled it out to me, or at least I haven't seen it, of what those responsibilities are. So, you know, and the fact that it's already a rematch, so Kirby feels comfortable with it. I don't think this next game is going to be close. And I love Trinidad. I love Kewan. I think they got a little bit banged up in that game, and I think Georgia's only been getting better. I like Georgia big and out.
So let's see. Let me read between the lines here. You like Georgia big. You think Indiana beats Alabama. So Georgia's the SEC's hope to win a national championship. Is what I'm hearing from UPB.
I think that's the case. And I mean, if that's going to be the situation, I still think Georgia, with the way that I think physicality is the name of the game right now. And I think when you got guys that want to tap out, and I think Ohio State tries to put on the front that they were physical, and then they met a really physical Indiana team, and they got punked. And I think that's what Georgia is hanging its hat on right now. And I think that's what I want to see LSU get back to when Lane and Blake Baker and this whole crew rides in 2026 is bring back physical damn football to LSU, because I don't feel like we've had that in a while.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears on that one, my friend. Peter Burns of the SEC Network on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN. He's been great with us here all football season long on Mondays on AFR. PB, we appreciate the time, man. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and yours.
Merry Christmas. And will you post pictures of your crappy rapping so I feel better about mine?
I can, sure.
Just make us all feel better. That's all I want.
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, PB, take it easy, man.
Keeps on giving. See you,
yes,
buddy.
indeed. Later. That is Peter Burns. Win for the New Orleans Saints on Sunday in the Dome over the New York Jets, 29-6. Marked the first 3-game winning streak for the franchise since 2023, since 2022 for the Saints. But it was also a very emotional day for a trio of Saints veterans, really none more than Cam Jordan and Taysom Hill. Demario Davis, throw that in there as well, because this very well could be the final home game for those 3 players as New Orleans Saints. All 3 of them are set to be unrestricted free agents for 2026. So there are decisions, and tough decisions, that will have to be made in the Saints front office on whether or not to bring back Jordan, Hill, and Davis. Now, I am in favor. I'll tell you right now, I'm in favor of bringing all of them back if you can. Because, and let's just start with Cam Jordan. Y'all, Cam Jordan has found the friggin' fountain of youth this season. He is the Saints' leader in sacks with 8.5. That is more than the last 2 seasons combined. Now, at one point, he was forced square peg round hole into being a nose tackle in 2024, which was stupid from the get-go, but that's neither here nor there. He's back out on the edge. He saw his snap count increase this year as well, and he has responded in kind. Cam Jordan needs 2.5 sacks over the last 2 games to reach a double-digit sack season at age 36. If that guy wants to come back for at least one more year, in my opinion, you let him. Cam Jordan has been a great Saint. He is a great leader. He's an incredible veteran presence in that lineup. In that locker room. And if he's going to produce like that when he's in the lineup, or even a shred of that when he's in the lineup, you milk that for every single thing it's worth while building around him. With a guy like Chase Young, who also, by the way, is on his best sack progression, like his best sack to game ratio since 2023, mind you. You continue to build around Cam Jordan with young players. Cam Jordan, after the game, sure sounded like he wanted to be back in New Orleans, but he was asked about the uncertainty around his future.
I've always had a contract. About 2 years out from contract being done, I think I've always signed a new extension. This is the first time where I just don't know. It's not on me, right? Can I create my own contract? Jonas, can you write your own contract? I don't think so. So again, like I can only put my best foot forward. I can only love on my teammates and appreciate my teammates as much as I can. I appreciate each and every practice I've been a part of and go as hard as I can when I'm able to. The rest takes care of itself, as it always has. Again, I've always wanted to be here. Unless you don't want me, then I got to go back to the West Coast.
When Cam Jordan says, "Then I got to go back to the West Coast," to me, I take that as retirement. I mean, Cam played at Cal, like that's his spot. I understand everybody wants the team to get younger. I do as well. Like I do. That's what makes this 3-game winning streak so exciting is you're starting to see the young players that you have brought in really elevate. But with a leader like Cam Jordan who is producing and at a high snap count level, if he wants to play one more year, he's been nothing but loyal to this franchise. I think you let him do it. Even if it is in a reduced capacity, and you continue to build up around him. I think he potentially has one more in it. The other caveat or the other aspect of the Cam Jordan conversation is Hall of Fame. And Cam Jordan on Sunday got sacks number 129 and 130. That gives him sole possession of 17th place. He has already passed 3 Hall of Famers to get there in Dwight Freeney, Derek Thomas, and Ricky Jackson. The next name on his list is Lawrence Taylor, who's also a Hall of Famer. Jared Allen had 136 sacks. He made it into the Hall of Fame. You look at guys like Jason Taylor, DeMarcus Ware, Richard Dent, John Randall, all of them under 140 sacks, all of them in the Hall of Fame. Cam Jordan is the thing he doesn't have is a Super Bowl. You know what? That stinks. That really, really stinks. That's the one thing about his time in New Orleans, man. You wish you could have gotten him, and man, you would have if it wouldn't have been for the damn Nola no call. But Cam Jordan is a Hall of Famer. I don't know if he'll be first ballot, but eventually he gets a bust in a gold jacket in Canton. Taysom Hill. Cam addressed his future with the flair and the humor that only Cam Jordan can. Taysom Hill was much more emotional after the game on Sunday when asked about what his time in New Orleans, the 9 years, has meant to him.
As I was driving to the stadium today, you start to think about the last 9 years and what it's meant to me and my family and the city and stuff. So I think for me personally, you just try to take it all in, We had a great experience here tonight, and I don't know what the future holds for me. but it was a special day for me and the family.
With Taysom Hill and Cam Jordan, it kind of feels a little bit more final in a sense. I think that's why they're the main focus of this conversation. I mean, you hear the emotion in Taysom Hill's voice. I mean, he's choked up, he's crying, talking about what it's meant to him. And that, man, he got nostalgic driving to the Dome, knowing it could be the last one. He had a large contingent of family in the stadium, knowing it could potentially be the last one, as did Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan had 24 members of his family at the game on Sunday. Man, when you look at Taysom Hill's career, he is arguably the most unique player in NFL history, and he is definitely the most unique player in the modern era of the NFL, in the Super Bowl era. That is no more on display than the feat he accomplished Sunday in the Dome. 1,000 passing yards, 1,000 receiving yards, 1,000 rushing yards in a career. He is the only player in the Super Bowl era in NFL history to account for that. When you look at him and Frank Gifford being the only two players in the 10-10-10 club, 10 passing touchdowns, 10 receiving touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. You add in the special teams aspect of Taysom Hill. That guy has been the ultimate team guy, willing to do whatever it took to get on the field as an undrafted rookie out of BYU. And at 35 years old, yeah, the production's dipped a little bit. The injuries have picked up. That's why you look at it and you go, okay, is it time to just move on? That answer will come. That's when you really have to dig into. But to Taysom's credit, coming off an injury, he has stayed incredibly healthy this season and been able to produce for the New Orleans Saints, and no bigger showing of that than this past Sunday against the Jets. That's a real decision that you have to look at if you're the Saints and you're Kellen Moore, and how he fits, and can you really maximize him if you want to bring him back for another year. But regardless, Taysom Hill is a Saints legend. He is an NFL legend, and he too should be in the Hall of Fame. You saw Devin Hester go in. Frank Gifford is in, who Taysom Hill is one of only two people with Frank Gifford with the 10-10-10, and he's the only player with 1,000. He is doing things that have never been done in the game and possibly will never be done in the game again. And again, you've seen now, what do they call it? Non-traditional players get in. I mean, Devin Hester got in because he was a great return specialist. Taysom Hill should be in Canton. And finally, Demario Davis. And, Demario Davis sat down with Matt at the Super Bowl, and he talked about wanting to play 3 more years. And he gave the reason why he wanted to win the Super Bowl. And and bring it to New Orleans. And he felt like he still had it in him. And that, man, he always looked at it as a 3-year thing because, you're not going to come back for another if you don't feel like you can do it. Mario feels like he can still do it. And the greatest era of his career has happened in New Orleans. That's where all of his All-Pros have been, all of his Pro Bowls, everything. And he's got 131 tackles this season. The only place you see the production really dipping for Demario Davis right now is sacks. He has been incredibly productive, and I will put him back in the same boat as a guy like Cam Jordan. If Demario Davis feels like he can still do it and he wants to come back, you bring him back for another year. Hands down. In my opinion. And you continue to build around him with guys like Danny Stutzman and Isaiah Stallbird and Pete Werner. Because of the leadership he provides and the production. 131 tackles. That's the 3rd highest mark in his career. He's doing it at 36 years old. If he wants to play another year, let him go. If you can get more out of him, get it. I'd say the same for Taysom Hill. Those 3, if that is the last time we see them in the black and gold in the Dome, man, what great games for each of them to go out on. Because they were all over the field, as they have been for their whole careers, on Sunday against the Jets. And that was awesome. Those are the three of, I won't say the 3 biggest, but 3 of the biggest decisions the Saints have to make here in the offseason. 2 more games, at least, for those 3 in the black and gold.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
It is my pleasure this week to welcome our new partner on to After Further Review, Our Lady of the Lake. Of course, great partnership as well as the official championship health partner of LSU. When you think who takes care of the LSU athletes, well, it's Our Lady of the Lake and the physicians there. Game-changing care, keeps athletes at their best, builds stronger, healthier Louisiana for all of us at every level. I've told you about my experience throughout my life living in Baton Rouge at Our Lady of the Lake, from volunteering at the Ronald McDonald Playroom to helping raise funds through so many different fundraising efforts for the standalone Children's Hospital to taking my son to see specialists there at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital, to my own personal health. My GP is Dr. Kurt Chastain with Our Lady of the Lake Men's Health. It's good enough for the LSU athletes. It's good enough for me and you, of course. It's Our Lady of the Lake. You can learn more at OLOLRMC.com/LSU.
All right, wrapping up an hour number 2 here of AFR on a Monday presented by Relief Windows. Taylor's got the honors today with Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, he's had a bit of a slow season due to Nine not being the quarterback that we all thought they were. Yeah. But Justin Jefferson yesterday, big day, 6 catches, 85 yards, helps the Minnesota Vikings to a 16-13 victory. Moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, he may not be having fun playing football, but he had fun yesterday. 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. 109 out of those 300 yards went to former LSU teammate and current Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase. Going out to the Bills versus the Browns. Grant Delpit, pretty good day. 4 tackles, 2 solo tackles to almost pull off the upset against the Buffalo Bills, but they do fall 23-20. The Jacksonville Jaguars handle business against the Denver Broncos. Brian Thomas Jr., 2 catches for 18 yards. Trevor Lawrence, 9 touchdowns, no turnovers now in the last 2 games, playing as good as anybody in the National Football League. The Pittsburgh Steelers got a big win last night, 29-24 over the Lions, thanks in large part to Patrick Queen, the co-leading tackler on that Pittsburgh defense. 7 tackles for the former Tigers linebacker. And then wrapping things up with the Houston Texans, a pair of Tigers, the best defense in the league. Danielle Hunter, 3 tackles, including a big-time sack of Geno Smith in their 23-21 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. If he was outdone by anybody, well, then it was probably Derek Stingley Jr., because Derek Stingley, he had 2 tackles on the night, but also an interception. What did he do with that? 31 yards to the house for a pick 6 for our guy Sting, and 23-21 victory for the Houston Texans. Best defense in the NFL, led by a couple of former Tigers. And Musso, that is Tigers in the pros.
Yeah, Sting is, I think, top 5 in the NFL in interceptions, and I believe that's sacked like 13 or 14 for Neil Hunter.
He has double-digit sacks every single
year. He's
the guy where you're
awesome.
Like, who didn't do that much in college and just exploded in the NFL?
Yeah.
Danielle Hunter.
I mean, he's been absolutely incredible. And, yeah, I mean, that Damone Clark's on that defense as well.
He is.
He
had a tackle
over
last
there
night
in Houston. So, I mean, he's carved out a little bit of a niche role there. We had him last week in Tigers in the Pros. He had a pretty big day. 3 former Tigers helping lead the number 1 defense in the NFL. Okay.